were given a bike at a young age and we're like, hey, you can be really good at this, right? Here's your local club, here's all that stuff. That's some of the things that we're currently working on now. You see with the junior cycling clubs, the high school league, all these things. That's happening later, or that's happening now in America. But the reality is when we were all younger, there was nothing, right? There was no, there was Greg LeMond, it was on TV, but for us to be able to pick up the bike and do it, it didn't exist. So that's why we're all kind of in this scenario. Well, guess what? The whole country's in this scenario, right? Me as a coach and looking at the market and learning, okay, how can I build my business? I see that the majority of people that are riding bikes are older, right? And it is their primary sport. Like, that's what we're doing. Like, so in America, cycling is a different sport than in Europe and then in the Tour de France, right? There's this whole group of us that are older, that want to be active, we want to be healthier, and there's so many avenues for us, right? There's Grand Fondos, there's charity rides, there's century rides, there's races, there's national championships, there's track, there's so much opportunity for us that it is important, this talk tonight, that it is important that you guys realize this, that there is so much potential, there are the places for you guys to do it, and it is okay to be competitive, to be focused, and have a healthy drive to push us to that next level within this sport. It's pretty awesome, right? We aren't playing golf, we're out there riding our bikes, we're getting healthy, and we're meeting great people, and we're seeing the world. So I feel that all of you guys, like I've already said, have this ceiling that is much higher than you guys currently think, right? I think it's far off. I think that ceiling is not currently where you guys think it is, directly ahead on top of your head. The first thing to finding your ceiling, or the first concept that I want to talk about tonight with your ceiling, is that the majority of people already want to be, or all of us, already want to be called or anointed the position that we want to become. So whether we want to win bike races, whether we want to ride a sub 5-hour century, all these goals that we have in the back of our heads, a lot of us are already seeing ourselves in that position. We already think we're there, but we're not there. So I think that in order for us to accurately see our ceiling, we have to look at our goal realistically and say, okay, what do we want to do in the sport, and am I currently that person? Am I currently in that spot? Does that make sense? So maybe we want to be Masters National Champion, or maybe we want to beat our friend in the time trial locally, right? Does it sound familiar that because we've made that a goal, sometimes we already think that we've achieved it. We say, okay, I'm doing the training, I want to beat my friend in the local time trial, so therefore, like, every bike ride, I'm pretty much already that person. I know that I had that feeling when I was racing. I would make a goal, I want to win this big race. I would go out on my bike rides, I excel in my training rides. Oftentimes when I returned home, I felt like I had already won that race. I felt like I was already that person. And then when I went to the race and I didn't win, what happened? I became disappointed. I thought that I was a failure, right? And then I thought there was something wrong with myself. And then all of a sudden that ceiling, I misinterpreted, and I thought, oh, I'm not really that good. I'm already at my ceiling, right? But that's not the case. And the mistake that I made was that I just assumed that I was already that person that I wanted to become. And I didn't look at the route that it would take to get there. So that's the first thing that I want you guys all to kind of clear or put in your perspective, right? In defining where you can achieve in the sport. Is not exactly where you think you should go or where you think you are, but where you want to go and what you would like to do as a person and individual in the sport of cycling. The next step is look at your low-hanging fruit, right? Which I think is your potential or the things that you're good at. You hear so many people that get on the bike and they recognize all the things that they suck at or they're bad at, right? What do I hear all the time when I ride with people? Oh, I suck at hills, right? All the time, I suck at hills. Okay, fine, you suck at hills. You don't have to be good at hills. I don't care, right? And you don't have to care. It is okay to suck at stuff. It's, right? Let's talk about what you are good at. Maybe you suck at hills, but you're good at downhills, right? So that is important. Find that low-hanging fruit, accept it, and build your framework towards your ceiling with that low-hanging fruit. Don't focus on what you suck at and trying to repair that, because it won't work. right? Like I was skinny when I was little, when my dad was a football player, right? All I was focused on is like, Dad, I'm skinny, I can't be a football player, right? And he was like, son, you're skinny, you can't be a football player, right? I was focused on what I sucked at, and I thought, well, I need to eat more, and I need to do whatever, right? I didn't think like, oh, maybe I could do a different sport, or I could be good at something else, right? So all of us, the cool thing about cycling is there's so many versions of it. There are so many things for you guys to be good at, so just figure out what is your low-hanging fruit and start building your path towards success with that. The next thing is recognize your limiters. Figure out what they are. Not because we're going to focus and try to repair them, but just so we don't keep running into them and tripping over them and making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. So what do I mean by limiters, right? Well, one that I recognize or I see as a coach is negative people, right? Negativeness, right? Like making negative comments. That's a limiter. Like if you're talking bad about yourself all the time and saying, all the stuff that you didn't do right, that's a limiter, and that's going to affect you later on and currently to making that next step in progress and moving forward. So eliminate talking about those limiters. Recognize that they're there and you could trip over them, but move around them, right? Go with that low-hanging fruit and don't sit there and dwell on the limiters. The final piece before I get into the key things with getting past that ceiling or getting to that ceiling is realizing who your true competition is. We all know who's on the bikes. We all know who we don't like. We all know who's on the rides. But the reality is it's you versus you out there, right? There's always going to be people that are better. There's always going to be people that work harder. There's always going to be people that are more talented. But the only person that's truly stopping you from anything is you. So realize that. Realize that, if you're making excuses or you're coming up with reasons why you did not succeed, who are you speaking to? Who's listening? You, right? No one else cares about your excuses. No one else wants to hear it. No one wants your negativeness or any of that stuff. You are speaking to yourself. So if you realize that if you're spending your time making excuses and telling them to yourself, you're just wasting your time. You're like the dog chasing its tail in the corner of the room. You're losing time that you could be making progress. So realize that it is you versus you. So all the barriers that you have, the limiters that you see, those are all yourself. Figure out a way around them and start moving forward towards your ceiling and then past it. So, we know what we can do to figure out our ceiling. And we know what the reasons are that we might not get to it. So how do we get quickly to it and past it? Well, I think there's 3 concepts that I'd like to talk to you guys about tonight. The first one, being all in. The second one, your lifestyle. And the third one, change. Those are the 3 key things that I think will take you to your ceiling and smash through it. The first one, all in. When I talk to people and when I meet people out on the road, and even I did a little test tonight on Facebook before I came here, if you ask people, are you all in? They always say yes, right? Oh, are you into cycling? I'm all in. I love it. I'm into cycling. I do it all the time. How's your training? I'm all into my training. Like I'm super focused in your training. Like, how are your races? Oh, I'm all into racing. Like I'm super into racing right now. Well, guess what? Like most of these people are not all into cycling, are not all into the focus, are not all into it, right? It starts with the hunger. Like, are you all in? How hungry are you for what you're all into, right? So for those people that I asked on Facebook tonight, like, are you all in? Like, do you know why you're riding your bike? What are you hungry for? So like for you guys, like Dan, like what's your hunger that drives you on your bike?
To be better and hopefully at some point win something.
Okay. How about yours? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not all that competitive, so I can't say.
It doesn't, but okay, like what are you hungry for when you get on your bike? Like I don't care about beating people. I don't want to actually hear about beating people in racing. Like you see your bike, you just finished work. Like why do you want to ride that?
I like being active, I guess.
Right.
Staying active.
So you're hungry to like feel your strength, your physical exertion, like getting out there, feeling the environment, going fast, taking it all in, breathing, right? How about you? What's the hunger that gets you on your bike?
So many.
That's
the competition. I love competition, pushing myself, trying to do better than the last time, being able to train, being outside in the fresh air, hanging out, exercising with friends and making new friends. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff.
Right. So all these things are you know, the hunger that is the first step to being all in. But ultimately, being all in is having that, recognizing your ambition, but then putting the action behind the ambition to make it happen. So all those things that you guys said just now, right? Like the winning, the getting outside, the competitiveness, all these things that are the key, the hunger that starts your all in, right? Like you have to have the action behind that ambition. So it sounds simple, right? But so many times you'll come home from work, you're tired, you see your bike there, you want to get outside. That action is what then takes you to that ambition, right? You want to beat people, you want to get better. That's your ambition. You have to be all in. You have to have that action behind it. Consistent action. It says, all right, like I'm going to grab my bike, I'm going to throw on my kit, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to do my training, right? So it has to be backed up. To be all in, your actions have to be backed up, or your ambition has to be backed up. Mindset and perspective. This is another key component to being all in. When you guys pick up your bike, whether it's in the morning or after work to go train, do you guys often have a perspective on why you're going out and riding and what you hope to achieve? I know that I'm guilty of often grabbing my bike and not exactly knowing what I'm going to do out of my ride. You have to have perspective. You have to understand where you're going to ride, what you're going to accomplish, and what you hope to achieve. It's dangerous if you don't do that. A lot of the accidents that happen, right? We don't have perspective. It's 5 o'clock, right? It's rush hour. There's people driving all over the place. And we already have a loop in our head that we think, well, I've been doing this on Saturdays, and I'm just craving to do that loop tonight at 5 o'clock. Like I had a client that had some intervals to do, and he was postponed and had to do it later, did it at 5:30 during rush hour, and he went and did it at the most busy road in all of Boulder. What do you guys think happened with his workout? It sucked. It was dangerous. He was terrified and horrified, and he almost got hit like 20 times. So perspective, you have to understand where you're going to train, what time it is, and what you're hoping to achieve. That ride might have worked at 5 o'clock if he said, look, like I had the objective of doing these intervals, but I'm not going to be able to do it because the roads aren't safe. So I'm going to go on the bike path, and I'm going to change my workout to being an easy ride because it's not realistic for me to go out and risk my life out on the open roads. So that's important to being all in. Maybe you're the most intense person in the world and you just want to beat everyone, but you're putting your life in danger if you're trying to do that at 5:30 during rush hour, right? So you have to have perspective. Another key component of perspective is understanding what you hope to do with cycling. It has to be in line with your goals and your training. So if your goals in your training are just to be competitive or just to be active and be stronger and ride stronger, then you don't need to be in all these crazy situations in group rides and crazy situations in races, right? Like your perspective has to be matched up with what you want to achieve. Your actions have to be there. Same thing with training. If your perspective is on training that you just want to get stronger for you and you want to be out there in the open and feel good about yourself, and you don't need to be doing these crazy risk-taking group rides. You can choose a different group ride. And you see these people all the time on the group rides. They're doing the most competitive, the craziest group ride, the most dangerous one, because they think that's who they have to be, because that's cycling. Well, it's not, right? That's one type of person. Those people love that chaos, that craziness, but we don't have to do that. We can go to a different group ride, or we can organize a different group ride. So have that perspective. Make sure it lines up. Make sure your rides line up with what you hope to achieve. Like the Meridian is another great example. There's 10 guys or 10 people in the front of the Meridian that have one objective, and then there's 80 people behind. Do those 80 people really need to be out in the Meridian? Right? Like they're ripping around these corners and stoplights, and there's cracks in the road. They are in, like, it's like you have some form, Alonzo driving your bus, to school. Like, do you really need to go to the bus stop and to school with Alonzo driving you? No, well, that's what it's like at the Meridian. You have all these Masters national champion guys and pros driving the bus crazy, but you don't even know how to handle it back there. So that's a good example. Is like people show up to that because they say, oh, that's the fastest group ride in town. Like, I want to be part of that. But what is your perspective? Are you ready for that? Do you have the bike handling skills for that? Is that something you even want to be doing? It's okay if you don't. So find a place where you feel comfortable within your own skin and do it. Plan. This is super, super important to being all in, right? Is a plan. You have to have a plan. You have to know why you're riding your bike, and I keep coming back to this, right? You have to know what you're going to do on your rides. You have to have a plan. It's dangerous out on the roads. It's dangerous in the races. If you don't have a plan, what's going to happen? You're probably going to make mistakes. You could be in accidents, and you're definitely not going to get to the next level and meet your goals. So it's important before each ride, just like take a few minutes and make a plan. Even if you don't have a coach or you don't have a training schedule or whatever, just say, my plan is to go from here to here. And I know this is going to be dangerous, and I know I'm going to have to be spot on with my attention here, and I know that I'm going to enjoy my ride in this section, and I know that I'm going to go hard in this section. It sounds simple, but most of us don't even do it. In fact, I don't do it half the time, and I need to do it. Is you have to have a plan ahead of time so you know where to be all in, where to be tuned out, and to be much safer on your rides. And with more goals and more things to feel good about at the end of the ride. Execution and process. When you guys train and when you guys ride, the execution of what you're doing on your rides has to be spot on. It has to be clear as day for you guys. Because that way, when you finish your rides or when you get done with them, you'll feel much better about yourself. If you go out on rides with no execution plan, no process that you're trying to follow, again, it goes with the planning and being all in, but you guys have to know at the end of it, like, what you're trying to accomplish, and at the end of the ride, what you did accomplish. That is super, super, super important. How many rides have you guys finished and you don't actually really know what happened out there? Like, a lot of times when I go on group rides, like I'll do a ride in Boulder, yeah, it was fast, it was hard, but I don't really know what I did out there, right? And then all of a sudden you're resorting to other people's stories, and then you're looking on Strava and you're like, wow, I got a PR on that, even though you were stuck behind a Peloton, a million miles an hour. So you don't really know like what you accomplished. Well, that's a good way to burn out. That's a good way to kind of lose focus in the sport. So anytime you go out, like, understand what your process is and understand how you're going to be all into the execution. So when you're done with it, you know what you accomplished and you know how to feel good about yourself. The next key component to finding your ceiling and getting past it is lifestyle. Sounds simple, but it's not. Most of us have families and jobs, or probably all of us have family and jobs, right? So that makes the cycling component, it has to integrate with those things. Goes back to perspective. We have to understand why we're riding our bike. We have a family and we have a job. We're not going to do the Tour de France, probably, right? Isn't anyone here going to do the Tour de France? It's okay that we're not going to do the Tour de France. It's actually awesome, right? So we have to have that perspective in why we're riding our bikes, what we're trying to accomplish, and feel good about ourselves and how we're going to integrate that with our family. It's super, super important that your guys' family is 100% on the same wavelength as you guys with cycling. And I know from experience, it's a hard thing to juggle, right? Because we're so intense with cycling. It's an awesome sport. It's super addictive. There's so many avenues to it, right? We meet friends with cycling. We have online friends. There's ways to watch our friends through Strava, right? So we can ride our bikes, and then when we get off our bikes, we can check out who else rode their bikes. Then we can talk to who else rode their bikes, right? And we can see if we rode our bikes better than those people who rode our bikes. But looking from the outside, right? Like, our family and our friends are like, hey, like, you got 2 hours to ride your bike, or you got an hour and a half to ride your bike. Like, now you're riding your bike in your head. And I'm super guilty of this, right? Like, I'm always riding my bike in my head, and I've had to learn to turn it off and turn it back on. So I think that's really, really important for you guys to get to that next level, is that, you separate the two. When you're off your bike, you're off your bike. You're engaged with your work, you're engaged with your family, you're 100% all in to the situation that you're currently in. And then when you get on your bike, you turn everything off and you focus on your bike, because that's ultimately one of the reasons why we ride our bike, right? It clears our head. Well, if you're riding your bike thinking about what you have to do at work the next day, or how you had a bad day, or a fight that you got in with your significant other, well, now, like, we're not riding our bikes really well, right? And we're not, engaging in the activity that helps us and heals us and makes us feel better to be a better family member and a better spouse or a better person within our family, right? So it's super, super important to be able to flip the switch on and off when we're on our bike and we're off our bike with our family. Another important thing with lifestyle is diet. Sounds simple again, but it's not, right? Diet is one of the reasons why we're signed up for cycling to begin with, because we're like, well, that's great. We'll feel better about ourselves. We'll lose weight. We'll look better. We'll feel better. Diet is one of the reasons, and it is, like, it's a big part of why we're into cycling. But it is also important for you guys to recognize that food is a reward. So it's a delicate balance in seeing, okay, well, we need to eat good food because we want to perform well on our bikes, but we can't starve ourselves and we can't look at our diets in sort of training, right? At this point in our life, and when we're balancing all these things around, is that if you are turning your food and your diet into your training program, then all of a sudden you're going to burn out. You're not going to last. Right? You have to figure out with your food what you like, what healthy things you like, and figure out good timing that it rewards your cycling, it helps you feel better, and then you can still do your job and your family on top of it. So many people that I work with in the coaching world, they think that, okay, now that I'm training for nationals, or now that I'm training for this or this race or whatever, I need to go full gas in my diet, right? I need to starve myself. I call this self-destruction, right? I need to get super skinny so I'm super light, and then when I step on the scale, it's this amazing number, and then I also at the same time need to get my power through the roof so I look like Chris Froome and I ride like Chris Froome. Well, you're not going to be able to do that, right? That's just not realistic. Like, we have a life, we have a family to manage, we have so many other things. And guess what? All your competitors and all the other people can't do it either. So they're not living on the top of Tenerife with Chris Froome while you're down here in Denver working all day and riding an hour and a half at night, okay? Your competitors, the people, your peers, the people in the group rides are doing the same thing and have the same lifestyle as you guys. So make food and make your diet a reward. Eat healthy, but pick things that you want to eat, so you train harder and you work harder, and when you're off your bike, like I said, you flip that switch and you're engaged in your family, you're enjoying your food, you're enjoying your life, and that's how you're going to last longer with cycling. Recovery. Your training has to align with your allotted recovery. A lot of people look at the other way around, right? What do I need to do to get better? I want to get faster. I want to ride stronger. What training do I need to do? People are forgetting that recovery is actually more important than your actual training. So if you can't recover from your training, then you're just wasting your time training. So you'll see all the people that will do these crazy rides all winter long, or they'll do these crazy rides all spring long, and then they get to the season and they burn the candle at both ends too hard. Well, what happens? They go to the beach. They're done. They're fried. They can't do it anymore because they didn't have the recovery. Their body's self-destructed, right? On the other end, how about your family or your loved ones or your work? If you're not recovering from your bike ride, well, all that's going to tank too. And then you're not going to have your family, and you're not going to have your career. So it's super, super important that you allot enough recovery time for your training. So if you are doing hard rides on Wednesdays, then you have to make sure that Thursdays is an easier ride, right? If you're going to do hard rides on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday, you have to make sure that you can recover in time for Monday, right? Because Monday's work. You see so many people that are like, okay, it's the weekend, I'm going to go bananas, I'm going to do a 7-hour ride on Sunday, and then I'll deal with the consequences on Monday. These people are drooling, they can't see straight on Monday, right? They can't do their work, they can't talk to anyone. So Monday's shot, Tuesday's shot, maybe Wednesday they go to I guess that's Tuesday, but they'll go to some group ride on Wednesday, blow it all out again, then again shot to the weekend. So again, plan your rides around your recovery. You know what it takes to recover, so make sure that your rides are built around that. Events. Pick events that fit within your lifestyle. Again, the Tour de France, right? Like, the Tour de France doesn't fit into your lifestyle currently, so that can't be an event. And I know it's drastic and it's extreme and it makes no sense, but you see a lot of people that sign up for crazy ass events that they don't have the lifestyle to be able to train and get ready for. It just ends up in a frustrating experience, right? If you're going to pick events like Leadville and all these things that make sense, that are here, that you can travel to, that you can train for, you can succeed in, those are great choices and events. The hot route, or these other events that are 7 days long, that are crazy, crazy events that maybe you don't have the time to train for, maybe those need to come later on when you do have the experience or you have the accumulated miles to train for. You see this often in the Ironman world, right? The triathletes. These guys pick these crazy goals of the Ironman, right? That take them, 13 hours or longer to finish, and their knees fall apart and their back falls apart. Like, the longevity in the sport doesn't exist for those people, right? Like, you might as well be climbing some crazy mountain in Asia or whatever, right? Like, it's in the same category. It's not repeatable, it's not sustainable. And we all sign up for cycling because we want to do it for the rest of our life. We want to do it over and over and over again. So pick events that you can wrap your hands around, that you know you can sink your teeth into and feel good about yourself and get motivated for. Because at the end of the day, like, for us, events are carrots. We choose those events because they motivate us to train and they motivate us to live a healthy lifestyle and stay focused. The final part to getting past your ceiling is change. This is crazy. I know it sounds crazy, but the things that got you to where you are today are not going to get you to where you want to go to tomorrow. Does this make sense? So, like, for me, for an example, when I was younger, one time I did this one Wednesday ride. I did this 3-hour mountain bike ride. I included these climbs. And then that Sunday, I won one of my biggest races as a junior cyclist. So what did I think? Well, it was that ride on Wednesday that got me to win that race on Sunday. So what did I do? I just kept repeating that same ride and that same route over and over and over and over again. Eventually, I stopped winning and I sucked. Why? Because training in the first place is teaching your body to adapt to change. That's what it is. We cause a stress, we give it something strange, then it adapts and we get better. Well, guess what? If we keep giving it the same thing, it's going to figure it out and it's going to stop adapting. In school, we go through all different grades, we have different teachers, we have different subjects. We're growing our brains out, right? By all these different versions of information and different streams that we're getting it at. Training is the exact same thing. However, most people do the exact same thing over and over and over again, and they say, well, why am I not getting better? I'm up against my ceiling. No, you guys are doing the same shit every single day. You can't keep doing the group rides. You can't keep doing the same 3x20 minutes threshold, FTP, whatever the heck you want to call it, over and over, because your body's just like, hey, I've already figured that out. Like, throw me something different. Same with diet. We do one drastic change. I'm guilty of this, right? I'm going to be vegan. Sick. I go vegan. I lose 20 pounds. I'm super skinny. I'm fired up. Well, that's the solution. I just stay vegan. Like, I'll be 20 pounds later. Eventually, my body figured it out. And it said, okay, like, you're going to have to do something different. And I gained all my weight back. Because the reason I lost all that weight was because of that change. So diet and training, you have to constantly change in order to get the best adaptation. Events you have to change as well. So if we keep doing the same races and keep doing the same charity rides and the same century rides year after year, what happens? Our motivation goes down. And you guys are in an awesome area where in Colorado we have 1 billion cycling events. So we don't have to get in the same rut that we're going to do the same, criteriums every year. We're going to do the same, and no offense to Elephant Rock. Elephant Rock's awesome, right? But we're going to do Elephant Rock every year. Like, we have to pick different stuff to motivate ourselves and bring those challenges. Maybe we're not good at climbing, but we should pick a climbing event like the triple bypass or whatever instead of Elephant Rock this year, because that's going to light a fire under us and motivate us and say, hey, we're going to have to do this different event this year. I'm not comfortable with it, but it gets me out of my skin and I work a little bit harder and I feel better and I can get through that year that much more successfully. We see it with seasons, right? Like, we have to change our training with the seasons. Like, you can't do the same training in the wintertime as the springtime, as the summertime, as the fall, yada, you get it, right? We have to change it all the time. It's fun. Number one, we like skiing, we like cross training, we like gym work. Embrace it, like, do the change, right? Neuromuscularly, it challenges your body. So change your training with the seasons. Take advantage of it. The fall is a great time to ride mountain bikes. Get out on the trails, get out on the cyclocross bike. The wintertime, right, is great time for longer rides, easier rides. You see it all the time with base miles. Get out and do longer rides, right? Maybe take a trip down to Tucson, ride down there, see a different environment. Take advantage of the seasons to force you out of your ruts and change your training. Finally, focus. This goes with events, but change your focus. Change what you are totally focused and driven on. Like, you can't be focused on the same thing in the wintertime as you are in the springtime, as the summertime, and as the wintertime. Like, just saying I want to raise my FTP or I just want to win one race or whatever, that gets old quick. So you have to be ahead of the game. You have to be changing your focus before you actually get to that point where you're sick of it. So does that make sense? So, like, for me, right now, like, my focus is I want to get ready for, we're doing an Italian trip. So my focus is, okay, I want to get a little bit leaner, I want to get stronger so I can climb these mountains, and then I want to have, the ability to ride a certain duration or length on the ride. So I'm training my lower zones. But as soon as the Italian trip switches over, I'm going to change my focus to our CINCH League, our events, right? Because, I'm the ref in there, and I want to be able to keep up with the fast guys like Scott and Dan and all the people in our event, right? So I'm going to change my focus to being more explosive and higher in and able to keep up with those people. Then in the fall, right, I want to change my focus to longer rides. I want to enjoy the fall. I want to see the leaves, right? I might want to do some mountain bike rides or some longer gravel rides, right? So I'm always anticipating the burnout, or I'm always anticipating becoming bland with cycling with change. With our athletes, like, I'll change the workouts all the time. Like, we'll never give them the same workout over and over and over again because we want them to have to adapt and feel the different focus all the time. Super, super important. So, again, the final three things that you guys need to get to your next ceiling is, number one, being all in. So, like, think about that, grasp that, embrace that. Anytime you get on your bike, anytime you get in your car, anytime you're with your family, just be 100% all in. It's easy to say, but it's hard to do. So fully immerse yourself in what you're doing at that time. Number two is lifestyle. So make sure your lifestyle aligns with your goals and ambitions, right? Don't blend it all together and have crappy goals and a crappy lifestyle to back it up. They both have to be together. And finally, change, right? Always adapt, always be forcing yourself to adapt, always change your environment, your goals, your aspirations, your drive, and your actions. Now, I think if you guys do all those things, you'll win your ride, and you guys will get to the next level in your cycling. So, do you guys have any questions?